Qu'est-ce qui est fou là, le teuton? Quand t'as pas de talent, tu viens pomper celui des autres.
I'm very excited to chat about this show. I'm about halfway through it, and I'm really loving what I'm seeing so far. You both are incredible in it, and it wonderfully tells this story. Daniel, I'll start with you, and then Theodore. What about this project and your characters really sparked both of your interests to be a part of it?
Well, me being German, growing up, I mean, Karl Lagerfeld was always present. He was always there, and he was always that iconic, mysterious, fascinating figure in Germany. And on the one hand, this sharp, witty intellectual. On the other hand, like a pop star, almost, who had created this strange persona, similar to Andy Warhol, no? And I met him 15 years ago, only once. He took pictures of me, and I met the persona. I saw him, with the tail and the shades and that armor. And for me, it was very interesting to go back in time and to discover who that man was before he became famous and created this character, and to open doors and to take away these peels and to try and show a man also with his vulnerabilities and insecurities and complexes, being a young man trying to make it in Paris as a young rookie homosexual man from Germany. That wasn't an easy path for him, and he had such strong ambition and hunger that he made it. And this journey was so enriching when I saw it on paper that I said, yes, I want to play Karl Lagerfeld.
And then
for me, I think I came in much later after Daniel did, of course. But I just loved the writing from the beginning. From my first audition, I just had two scenes, and I thought the dialogue was so precise, and I could immediately see the dynamics and the character kind of transpiring from those two scenes. And then I allowed myself to look more into who was Jacques and who was Karl, and I was just fascinated by them and fascinated by Jacques, who was kind of an unknown or a not widely known figure, but nonetheless a very impactful figure of his time. And the way that the series and the writing of the show was going and how it was giving us access to these characters who are very untouchable and inaccessible, and giving us a view into their vulnerabilities and their inner wars, I just thought was fascinating. And that, so it was clear from that it was an exciting project,
There are so many intriguing layers to what I've seen so far. And one of them you just touched upon, but I mean, the relationship between Karl and Jacques, it's one that I went and did a little research on after watching the show, because I was so curious to learn more about him. And I found it so fascinating that Karl describes Jacques as sort of having seduced him, but without any physical intimacy being a major part of their relationship. And I'd love to hear from you both what it was like finding that dynamic and that specific rapport between Karl and Jacques from the acting side of things.
It's been a very, when you think about this relationship, it's so complex and bizarre at times. What I found so fascinating about Karl is that this was the love of his life. And in times that were very much, about sex, drugs, and rock and roll in the 70s, with a revolution amongst the young people and the sexual liberation and all that. And so he was living like in the 18th century, because this is something, a realm that he enjoyed so much in his head, and that a man then was able to build that fantasy world in his of his dreams and of his fantasies, and make it reality, dedicated to this man who was the one and only love of his life, is something so romantic and fairy tale like that was really touching. And it's also very bizarre, so I knew, oh my God, this is such a challenging ride. Who's going to be my partner? And then Yeah, it's with chemistry. It either happens or it doesn't. So in that case, whoever made the casting, if it was the director or the casting director, I don't know. But when I met Theodore, within 2 minutes, I guess we both felt, or at least I felt,
We both felt.
that there's something interesting is going to happen there, and I'm very fond of this show, I have to say, because there's a couple of moments throughout the series that I can say are among the best that I've ever done, because I see truth there. I see, like, really, we went emotionally, we went all in. There's no pretension. We could be generous and completely unrestrained with each other. And it came to the point that I called my wife and said, "I'm sorry, honey, but I will be in love with a man for a couple of months and then I'll be back." And she said, "Oh, I love this actor too. Can I have an open relationship?"
I mean, I really, I don't want to just like, I really feel the same way. It was one of the best experiences to get to work with Daniel every day and have all of these moments of you know, of love and of constant like tearing apart and getting back and trying. And it was just, yeah, one of my most enjoyable and easy to act with partner. I mean, it was truly just great. Yeah.
I love that it was so rewarding for both of you, and that chemistry really shines on screen. So I'm glad you were able to find that rhythm. Now, Theodore, I wanted to turn to you next. Daniel touched on the fact that this era involved a lot of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and Jacques gets up to quite a lot, as we see in the show. And I'm curious what that's like for you, having to really, you know, lean into some of those elements for filming and really, you know, be vulnerable for those sequences.
Yeah, you know, he was like that, and at the same time, it really wasn't just out of like wanting to party and addiction. It really was his way to approach life and to live life. It was kind of his poetry. In a sense, he was decadent and he knew how to be, and it really was in full knowledge that he went for it. And so I think that all of this was part of the character that he was kind of creating around himself and for his life, and the staging that he was making. He was an erudite. He was incredibly literate, and he couldn't write, although he wanted to. He wasn't able to, and I think that that's part of why he was in love with Karl, because Karl was such an, you know, overachiever, and he wasn't able to achieve that. He wasn't able to achieve his art, and so I think that the night and the sex and the drugs were a way to write his life the way he wanted it to be written, to become the character that he admired, in a sense, to make his life a form of art, you know.
I think that's a really intriguing way to look at it. And I like that you had that mindset, because it really, again, adds another intriguing layer to his character. I see I'm coming up on time. So before I let you go, Daniel, I wanted to turn to you real quick. My editor would kill me if I didn't ask, but huge fan of Zemo. He's not on the Thunderbolts roster, but he is supposed to be according to the comics. And so I'm curious what that's like for you, you know, not being on the roster after being such a big part of the past few years in the franchise.
Fine for me. I can wait. I'm a very patient man. No, I'm not, but it's funny because in the meantime, I just wrapped on a show that is called The Franchise, where it's actually a satire about, you know, the superhero universe. So it was fun to switch sides, so to say. But knowing Marvel, they have a lot of sense of humor, so they will probably find it as funny as I did. And who knows? I mean, I'm still not dead. I'm very confident that I'll be back.
I want to see you back. I want to see more. And I couldn't help but have a little flashback, by the way, in the pilot when I see Karl dancing and flashing back to Zemo dancing in the club. And I'm curious, you know, that since Falcon and the Winter Soldier premiered, that's become quite the viral meme and GIF. And I'm curious what that's like from your perspective, looking back on that, and if you see any of those pop up from time to time.
Well, it's funny that you're mentioning it now because also in this series here, I insisted on a non-scripted dance moment that is not the one in the club, but later on in the show. And it's a beautiful moment because it's juxtaposed with a beautiful dance scene of Théodore, of Jacques de Bacher. So it's, so you see them both. It's I think in the fifth or the sixth. It's a beautiful moment, I think, with a wonderful song that they found, which I won't give away. So, and with Zemo, it was the same thing. It wasn't in the script, so I just had this idea, and I think that in both cases, it was a fucking brilliant idea.
I love it. Well, I look forward to seeing that moment when it comes up and to spreading the word about the show. You both do an incredible job in it, and I can't wait for people to see it. So thank you guys so much for taking the time. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take care.
Karl, le plus important, c'est l'amitié, c'est la confiance, c'est l'amour.